Wow. 2024. What a year. I feel like I'm a different person than I was at the beginning of the year. I'm sure you feel like that too. The fossil count alone. I've touched like 30 fossils at this point, possibly 40, compared to 2 at the beginning of this year. I am a completely changed person. Life is always moving. And along with that, science is always moving. Oh, I want to add a couple more things to the list of things that I've done this year. I've lost my voice twice this year. I moved to a new apartment. I met Gian in person. What other cool things did I do this year? Went fossil hunting for the first. I guess that's kind of the same thing as the fossils. All right, we'll just keep it at that. Life is always moving. And along with that, science is always moving. And with so much of the world undiscovered, scientists are constantly finding creatures previously unknown to science. And that is what we will explore today. I'm going to show you 8 of my favorite discoveries that have been announced this year. Surprise, surprise, all of them are either prehistoric or deep-sea specimens. We're going to go in chronological order, because that's just what makes sense. And I hope this serves as a reminder that science is always, always finding cool new shit. All right, let's go all the way back to our first discovery. That doesn't really work here. No, it does. It does work here. Let's go all the way back to our first discovery in January. Actually, it was announced in January, but it technically took place in 2023. That is true for a lot of these on the list. They were published or announced in 2024, but took place earlier. The scientific process is a rigorous one. Obviously, we don't know about them until they're announced, so that's the date that matters to us. So, in December of 2023, researchers from the Smith Ocean Institute discovered hydrothermal springs off the coast of Costa Rica that are nurseries for octopuses, some of which are species completely new to science. Let me break it down. Hydrothermal vents are these underwater hot springs found in the deep sea, usually where tectonic plates are moving apart, i.e. cracks in the crust. Water seeps into the cracks and gets superheated and then gets shot back up and creates these smokers. They're filled with minerals and are just the best thing ever in the deep sea. They are the deep sea oases. Creatures cling to them for life and warmth. And evidence suggests life might have started at hydrothermal vents billions of years ago. They are the coolest. So discovering new ones are cool on their own, but also because finding new ones usually means discovering new species as well. These particular vents were found at a place called the Dorado Outcrop. And as it turns out, some octopuses use these vents as a place to brood their eggs. Octopuses have a life cycle where the females lay their eggs, then they use the rest of the energy in their bodies to protect them and pass away perfectly timed with when they hatch. The timing is impeccable. Moms taking care of their eggs kind of curl themselves inside out sometimes to defend the eggs, and as you can see from the footage, it seems as though the octopuses going through this process at the vents belong to a new species, which scientists are now calling the Dorado octopus. Scientists think they might have evolved to use the warmth from the vents to speed up the incubation process, which would be beneficial so the eggs aren't vulnerable to predators for as long. Also, I'm sure the vents feel very cozy. I would want to do that too. Researchers also found tons of other species nearby, 3 of which are other octopuses that seem to be new to science. More information to come in the future. There was also a skate nursery discovered nearby. You know, the chondrichthyans that look like a mix of a shark and a ray? And they're calling that location Skate Park. All in all, a sick-ass discovery to start the year off. During the time that this was announced, the Smith Ocean Institute was also just starting another expedition exploring some seamounts off the coast of Chile. And these turned out to be infested with diversity. That's not the right way to describe it. They were extremely diverse ecosystems. What's a good word for infested when you're happy about it being an infestation? Abundance. These turned out to be abundant with diversity. Infested? Jesus Christ. And the researchers think they might have found over 100 species new to science. 100. They also found underwater mountains never seen by humans before. The largest one is 4 times the size of the tallest building on Earth. That's a big underwater mountain. They found new crustaceans, new sponges, new urchins, corals, sea cucumbers, and a bright red fish with hands. Not actual hands, but they look like hands. You can't deny that. They made a little 3-minute video of some of the coolest footage they got from this expedition that you can check out here. I personally can't wait to hear more updates about these potential new species. The next one on the list is a paleo discovery. I talked about it recently in the History of Life on Earth series because it is sick. So in case you missed it, I will tell it again. In May of 2020, 11-year-old Ruby Reynolds came across a jawbone while at the beach with her dad in the UK. It was massive. And based on analysis that was finally announced on April 17th in this paper, it was determined to not only belong to the largest ichthyosaur that we know of, but possibly the largest marine reptile to ever exist that we know of. It's called Ichthyotitan severnensis, an ichthyosaur that got to the size of a blue whale, i.e. currently the largest animal to ever exist on our planet that we know of. Ichthyosaurs were these dolphin-shaped reptiles that were apex predators of the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous oceans. They came in a variety of sizes, with the largest previously thought to get to about 69 feet long in a group called Shastosaurus. Similar vibe as Ichthyotitan for sure. But based on the discovery of this jawbone, which was 6.5 feet long, Ichthyotitan blows them right out of the water, with an estimated length of 82 feet long, about the size of an average blue whale. The fossil dates to about 202 million years ago, so right at the end of the Triassic period. Up until that point, ichthyosaurs had been evolving since they first appeared in the period before, the Permian. You might know, and you definitely do if you've watched my channel, that the Permian period is notorious for the mass extinction that obliterated the planet at the end of it, wiping out over 90% of the species on the planet. It was absolutely devastating. So much so, I dedicated a shirt to it. This shirt right here. Made this. You buy it! You buy it! But somehow, it seems as though the ichthyosaurs made it out. Seems as though. I know that is weird wording, but it's because they were initially thought to have evolved after the Permian mass extinction. But last year, in 2023, on a remote Arctic island called
Svalbard.
Svalbard. I don't want British.
Svalbard.
Svalbard. Scientists found the remains of what must be the earliest remains of ichthyosaurs that we know of, in rocks that date to the late Permian period. So, pretty badass if you ask me. These new bones mean they made it out of the worst mass extinction the world has ever seen, then gave rise to some of the largest marine reptiles to ever exist that we know of, and then also made it out of another mass extinction, the Triassic. So, round of applause for Ichthyotitan severnensis, and to Ruby Reynolds, who I hope is now the coolest person in her grade. 2024 has been a huge year. Outside of the animal kingdom, there have been massive advancements in other sciences and the tech world that you might be feeling conflicted about. Advancements in technology are kind of nerve-wracking, because it can mean easier access to your own personal information, which is already happening. Do not sell my cookies. Ask app not to track. It all sucks, which is why I'm excited to introduce you to today's sponsor, Incogni, your digital privacy guardian that protects your personal data. Picture this. You're perusing the internet, maybe looking up some health tips. We all do it the second our chest feels weird. Seems harmless, right? Wrong. Health insurance companies are teaming up with data brokers to track your online activity. They could actually raise your rates based on what you search and click on. I think that's foul. We should all be able to indulge in a little bit of health anxiety and peace. Also, those robocalls and texts. They're super annoying. Half of your inbox is probably messages about vague estimates and act now deals. On what? Data brokers are selling your phone number to companies to build these call lists, and it never stops. This is where Incogni steps in. They automatically reach out to over 180 data brokers, demanding the removal of your personal information. And they don't stop there. Incogni will do repeated removals to ensure your data stays off the market. Take that, tech. And today, Incogni has a special discount for you. Use this code to get 60% off an annual plan, or just click on the link in the description. And that's not all. You can try Incogni risk-free for 30 days. If you don't like it, no worries, you'll get a refund. Thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring this video. Now, on to the next discovery. We left off at a discovery that was published April 17th. Now, the next discovery on our lineup was published the next day, April 18th, and is also an iconic, potentially record-breaking fossil. 2 days in a row. 2 record breakers. Would you believe the luck of that? You've probably heard of Titanoboa, an icon known as the largest snake to ever exist that we know of. They were alive about 60 million years ago in what is now Colombia, only 6 million years after the extinction that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs. The dinosaurs were finally knocked off the throne, and their absence left a ton of space for the surviving species to step up as apex predators. And step the fuck up they did. Titanoboa could get to 42 feet long, which is about the length of a semi-truck trailer, and 3 feet thick. They were so wide, they would have a hard time squeezing through your bedroom door if they were alive today. And if one slithered past you right now, or me, think I did that based on me. Well, the average person. If one slithered past you, an average person, it would come up to your waist while completely flat on the ground. A big-ass, thick-ass snake, almost double the length of the largest snakes alive today. So, big. Since their discovery about 20 years ago, they've been the subject of movies, nightmare, and a shit ton of research on their lifestyle and diet. But now, there might be a new sheriff in town. On April 18th, scientists announced that they had discovered the remains of a giant snake that was alive 47 million years ago in what is now India. They named it Vasuki indicus, and their remains indicate a body size somewhere between 36 to 50 feet long. So, potentially surpassing Titanoboa by the length of an average surfboard. The remains were technically discovered a long time ago, actually around the time Titanoboas were discovered, like 2005. At the time, researchers thought they had found the remains of a crocodile based on their size, which to them was like, yonk, crocodile schmocodile. And the bones got put on the back burner while they worked on other projects. But then, in 2022, they decided to take another look, finally got around to it, and realized the vertebrae they had were not crocodilian, but serpentine, and very large serpentine at that. There's still a lot of mysteries, though. Vasuki was likely an ambush predator that used constriction to kill their prey. What exactly that prey was, though, is currently unknown. I am personally very excited to learn more about Vasuki indicus as research continues. The next one on the list comes from June 20th, when a paper announced the discovery of a new dinosaur with some of the most badass designs ever found, Lokiceratops. A a dinosaur related to Triceratops. Definitely obvious at first glance, but with a couple big differences. Lokiceratops does not have the big nose horn, but to make up for it, has horns like blades on the back of their throat. They're actually the largest ever found on a horned dinosaur that we know of. Well, we know they're the largest ever found. They might be the largest to ever exist that we know of. Horned dinosaurs, or ceratopsians, have some of the most insane headgear ever, in my opinion. For example, Styracosaurus, Diabloceratops, dude, Cosmoceratops. I just found out about this one, and I love it. Looks like a shitty toupee. I feel like the name is perfect. Anyway, finding a new configuration with Lokiceratops is not necessarily surprising, just all around cool. It's cool to see what kind of shit ceratopsians got into back in the day. All right, next up, we've got the first footage ever taken of one of the rarest squids in the world, by our standards. Only a handful of specimens have been collected from the deep ocean, always in nets, and dead, and damaged. Kinda difficult to study, but now, for the first time ever, they are live and caught on camera. The squid was found 4,000 feet below the surface of the ocean by, you guessed it, the Schmidt Ocean Institute once again. Schmidt is always doing cool shit. Without further ado, here is the video. I like the way it looks a lot. I think it is a darling little guy. Kinda almost reminds me of sea slugs for some reason. And what do you know? The next discovery on our lineup is a new sea slug. That's right, bitches, we got a new nudibranch. On October 23rd, the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute introduced the world to Bathydebius caudactylus. I think that was pretty good. A deep-sea, bioluminescent sea slug that looks like something from another planet. They're actually first spotted in 2000. Scientists didn't know what it was, but noticed some mollusk traits like a structure called a foot, which works like a foot, i.e. locomotion, just obviously in different ways than our foot does. So, they knew it was a mollusk and just called it mystery mollusk for over 2 decades. Since 2000, other footage has been taken of the mystery mollusk. So finally, after analyzing them and comparing them to other species, scientists have been able to officially say this is a new one, and I think it is just stunning. The last one on the list also just so happens to be my personal favorite discovery of 2024, or technically announcement. I'm sure you've heard about it either from me or the media. On November 14th, scientists announced that they've found the remains of a saber-toothed cat cub that was frozen in ice in Russia. It belonged to the genus Homotherium, and it was 3 weeks old when it died over 30,000 years ago. This one is so sick. They initially discovered it in 2020 and have since been studying it and analyzing it and have finally revealed their discovery this year. Homotherium was a type of saber-toothed cat that was found all over the northern hemisphere. They existed for 4 million years, up until about 12,000 years ago, when they and the rest of their group became an evolutionary dead end, which means they don't have any descendants or close living relatives alive today. They're separated by all cats alive today by over 20 million years of evolution. This might look like a taxonomic big cat, and reconstructions have been made of them looking like big cats based on their skeletal structure. But there was no way to know for sure because ultimately they're very separated from them. So this discovery is insane. This is the first time in history the scientists have been able to study the actual appearance of an extinct animal that doesn't have any close living relatives. I can't imagine what it must have been like to be one of the researchers looking at this cub. Probably heartbreaking knowing that it died so young, but also surreal knowing you were looking at the actual appearance of an animal from deep time, an animal older than human civilization. Here's what the scientists found. The cub was preserved from the head to the 6 pair of ribs. They compared their appearance to that of a lion cub of about the same age, 3 weeks old. The Homotherium cub was about 10% shorter than the lion cub, but their forelimbs were 20% longer. They also had thicker and rounder paws, with more squarish toe beans, which are adaptations for walking in snow and colder conditions. Based on previous fossil evidence, Homotherium was thought to be shorter in length with longer limbs and have big, thick necks. And even at just 3 weeks old, this cub shows evidence of all of that, which is just so fucking cool. That is so cool. And it's discoveries like these that make me genuinely so excited to be alive. You know what I mean? Like, just being able to happen upon an announcement like this on a random Wednesday afternoon is just so sick. Our planet is so cool. Learning new things about it every single year is so cool. Yes, the future is uncertain, and that can be very scary. Maybe the next year feels pretty daunting to you. So if anything, I hope this video assures you that no matter what, the curiosity in us will keep going, and you will have tons of cool discoveries like this that are happening right now to learn about next year. Before we get to the actual outro, I wanna tell you some of my New Year's resolutions, and I also want you to tell me some of yours. I know this video is coming out a little bit early, but whatever. This year has been a great one, and I'm really, really happy about how this year has gone, but I've definitely also noticed some things that I can improve on, such as creating a better work-life balance. There have definitely been a lot of days where I didn't go outside because I wanted to finish a video in a certain time, even though I'm trying to stick to like go outside every morning, go on a bike ride every morning. So I want to stick to that more and make sure that I prioritize my well-being, I guess. I also just want to go out in nature more. I want to go camping, hoping to learn how to snowboard. I can ski, but I want to learn how to snowboard because it looks cooler than skiing. I want to spend more time with my family, and in the new year, the History of Life series is going to be over, so I'm hoping to create a better work schedule in general. That is a New Year's resolution, is to have more of a structure and organization of what I'm working on and what other people are working on, and I guess that's it. So, yeah. This video came before the second to last episode. It was supposed to be switched, but my voice is a little fucked up because I lost my voice last week. So we decided to flip them because the History of Life is a long video. Anyway, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the second to last episode of the History of Life on Earth that we know of. Check out my Patreon for behind the scenes updates in our Discord server. And for now, stay curious. The world has a lot for us to learn. See ya!